Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Break-Thru Active Podcast. I'm here with Mitch. How are you today?
G'day, Jamie. You're doing pretty well, mate. How are you?
Good, thank you. We had a chat before, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to discuss this on the podcast, as we feel there are a lot of members out there that feel this way. And the discussion we had was, when the gym reopens, which it looks like it will in the next 1, 2, 3 weeks, our members going to be nervous, our members going to be worried about that first week, and what we can do to help with that process.
Yeah, well, we feel as though that obviously we have all had going on 2 months away from the gym now, and among our members there have been, I guess you could say, different levels of activity during that time. We've had some people who have kept up with all the home workouts. We've had some who have been doing some of those here and there. Perhaps they got off to a hot start and haven't done as much in the last month or so. You've got some people who have done very little, and then obviously you've got the people who have sort of started back with us at the outdoor sessions. So one thing we, as the owners and coaches and trainers are being mindful of is we are not just going to be picking up where we left off before. So when we stopped running sessions in-house, towards the end of March, we aren't going to jump back in, whether it is in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and just pick up where we left off. There is going to be a process that we're following to ensure that everyone who is attending is working their way back up. So for starters, so they don't get injured, because a lot of them are going to be a little out of condition, but also making sure that they are feeling comfortable and they are able to complete the workouts and start to get that fitness back.
Yeah, and it's not too different from starting a member from scratch. Throughout the last 2 months, you would have more than likely decreased your fitness level, mobility, flexibility, just your muscle endurance. Everything more than likely is probably regressed. So it's our job as coaches to progress you from week 1 to week 2 and get you through to that process. And that's done by 2 ways. That first week, we might reduce the weights, we might reduce the workload, we might reduce the volume. There are a number of different training methods we can do to initiate you back into the program to make sure that, as Mitch said, you don't get hurt, you enjoy it, and we can make progress moving forward.
Yeah, I think for the last few months, it's probably safe to say that most of us, if not all of us, have spent a lot more time in a sedentary position, whether it be sitting down, in their home office for work, sitting down in front of the telly. So starting to get some of that range of motion back and starting to get some of those movement patterns back as well. So I think really keeping an eye on the weight that we're lifting is going to be important. It's going to be very easy for some of our members to want to throw on the weight that they were doing, 2 or 3 months ago. And it's just not going to be the safest way for us to approach it. So that's a conversation, and that's an announcement that we need to have, at each session, as well as just overall that we are going to be working our way back slowly, because obviously the name of the game is to be safe and to make sure we're training for longevity, and we're not going to be jumping in the deep end and end up hurting ourselves before we can even get started again.
Yeah, and it's a marathon. It is not a sprint. It does not matter what you lift week 1 if you get injured and you can't lift week 10. So I've had 2 shoulder operations, a knee operation. I've had to rebuild from scratch several times. And it might be frustrating, but you just need to understand that is the process that needs to take place.
Well, I think as well that it shouldn't be as frustrating if we do our job correctly with explaining why it is we're doing something. If we just jump in and throw some workouts up on the board, and we're not really communicating as to why we're doing it, or suggesting the weight that we should be doing, and having that conversation with the members, then they might go frustrated because they're going to be thinking as though it's not what they're really after. But as long as they know that we're following a process, and they know that the process they're on is going to lead them back to where they were, then I think they'll be happy to pursue that, and knowing that it's for their benefit that we are doing that.
Yeah, the whole point of this discussion, if you're out there and you're one of our members and you've done very little over the last 8 weeks, don't be nervous, don't be shy. There's probably more people in your situation. There's probably more people in your situation than not. So when that day is, use that day 1 as a launching pad to restart that journey. And whether it's fitness, strength, mobility, we are there for you to guide you down that path.
Yeah, I think that's correct. There's going to be so many people who are in the exact same boat, that definitely more than there aren't. So a lot of us are going to be starting from that same position. So I think it's going to be natural to be a little bit nervous, because it has been so long since we've been training in the gym. But just like we communicate with newer members when they're starting out, that everyone is in the same position. And after one, if not a few sessions, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable. You're going to feel a lot better. You're going to be more more familiar with what we're doing again, just like jumping on that bike again after a bit of time off. So knowing that there are a lot of us in the same spot, I think will be very helpful for our members to know that it's not just them that may be somewhat nervous coming back to starting sessions out again.
Yeah, and if you were training for 12 months and you build up to a certain fitness level or weight, it's not going to take you 12 months again, right? Like, I think you'll be surprised by how much fitness you've retained and how much strength you've retained. Those first couple of weeks, we're just getting you back to that peak performance before we go back to what we were doing before. And that's something that I've had to learn over the last 10 years is it's sometimes okay to take a rest. And your body maintains its fitness and strength and muscle quite well. It's more when we get back, it's relearning those movement patterns, relearning those cues to make sure that you are safe. And our motto is strong, fit and healthy. Like 1/3 of our session is revolves around stretching, mobility, stability, flexibility, and make sure that you are moving in the right way so we can keep you in the gym longer.
Yeah, and it might feel as though that you are back to step one, but you're far from it. It's only that feeling, the feeling of being underweight again, the feeling of pushing yourself and getting that heart rate up perhaps a little bit higher than you are by yourself, the feeling of getting into some of those positions and stretching and doing mobility work in a way that you haven't done for the last few months. And although it will feel like you are back to that starting position, like you mentioned earlier, it's going to be a lot faster process in getting back to where you were, although it may feel as though that you are starting again, but it won't be too long. I'd say probably as little as 2 to 3 weeks of consistency, and you'll be able to get that strength and conditioning back to where you were, say 2 months ago.
Yeah, a great example is 2015. I had my knee, shoulder, both my shoulders done in the space of about 4 months. I didn't train for close to 2 years, if you remember that, Mitch.
Yep.
And then I got everything back in about 3 to 4 months. So I had 2 years off training, and I got it back in 3 to 4 months. If you've had 8 weeks where you have not been doing what we were doing before, it will come back quick. And I guess that's one of the most, that's a great feeling. That should motivate you because you're going to get that initial progress really, really quickly to get you back to where you were before.
Yeah, and I think that's important starting out or restarting again, is see that progress regularly. That's going to help keep you on track and going to help you want to continue to remain consistent with your training. And it won't be too long till it is just a thought of the past when you think, oh, I'd forgotten that I'd had 2 months away from the gym. And like I mentioned, I really think 2 to 3 weeks of consistent training, consistent nutrition, doing all the right things at home, and you will feel arguably better than you did 2 months ago. And then it's just a matter from that point, looking ahead after that 2 to 3 week period, and then starting to take some steps forward at that point to start to progress further from where you were before.
And the absolute worst thing you can do is go back to, or just let that fear, let that anxiety, let that feeling of that you're not fit enough anymore to get in the way and prolong this further. Because 8 weeks off isn't the end of the world. But if this turns into 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, all of a sudden you're making a New Year's resolution in January 2021, get your butt back into the gym. And if I've learned one thing from the members that we've seen at our outdoor sessions, I think I have a greater appreciation for group training more than ever. It is such a great environment to train with friends and to coach as opposed to doing it at home. You've experienced home workouts now. Let's be grateful for not just our gym, just the amazing group programs that are available for you guys to achieve your goals.
In terms of getting getting that first session back. We've spoke about this in detail before, but we truly believe that after that first one and just getting that first one out of the way, then you're 90% of the way back. I think a lot of the time the thought and, like you said, the uncertainty around of, I wonder if I've lost my fitness, knowing that perhaps you haven't done that much over the last 2 months, it can be enough to deter you and perhaps negatively affect your mindset of wanting to come back. But once you are back, you're grateful you did, and it will feel as though you didn't leave after not too long. And like you mentioned as well, just to piggyback off that, I think we can all, us included, have that newfound appreciation for how fantastic it is to be able to train around others. There's a reason that we run group fitness, that there's a reason that you guys enrolled in group fitness. It's because you found it challenging to do by yourself, and you're not alone in that. There's a reason why it is so popular, because it is really difficult to remain consistent and motivated and disciplined by yourself, training, in your lounge room or in your garage. So really being able to make the most of that group environment, be able to help each other stay on track, help each other get through those more difficult sessions. It's going to be something that we all really do appreciate once we're back.
I couldn't agree more. Now, for someone who wasn't a member, or for someone who wasn't training pre-COVID, or they were going to start training as March started, what's your advice to them?
The same advice that it is for the members. I think it's just to start. We've had a long time to think about it, and if anyone who was perhaps looking to start around that period, or maybe over the last few months they are starting to feel like they have put on a few kilos, starting to feel a bit more sluggish, wanting to get out, move their bodies, get a bit more active, get stronger, all the things that come with that. I think you just need to make up your mind that you want to do it, and then go from there. Taking that first step is always going to be the hardest, whether it is your first time, in a long time, or if it is just after, some time off. We've spoke about this before, after a holiday or after, we've had time off, that first session back is often the most difficult. So I think for someone starting out that has had some time off, you've had plenty of time to think about it. I'm sure it's been on just about every day, and wishing that you could be out training your body, using some weights, meeting other people, being in a group environment, socializing. So just making up your mind and then following through with that. I think it sounds simple, but I think that's as basic as it needs to be.
Yeah, and quite often that new member, their fear is they won't keep up with our current members. It's the perfect opportunity. It is the perfect opportunity, because they might have previous experience, but come week 9 or week 10 when we reopen, everyone's going to be feeling that way. So jump on board. We've opened several gyms in the past, and the reason why opening a gym works great is because everyone that joins is typically starting from scratch. It's a great feeling that the group can develop and grow their fitness together.
Yeah, you share a lot of bonding and camaraderie when you know that you're all starting the same date or the same week, knowing that you're going through the same struggles and the same challenges as the people working out next to you. As opposed to at times when you're joining a group and that the majority of people have been there for 18 or 24 months, and you're the odd one out, so to speak. So although we do discourage people from letting that stop them, we feel as though at the moment, given that everyone is just about in the same boat, that it is a really perfect time for people to be able to start, knowing that we've all probably haven't done as much as we normally do the last 2 months, and we're all going to be in that same position where we're happy to be back, we're happy to be around people, happy to be able to be in a gym, and happy to be able to be training regularly around other people as well.
Well said. All right, mate, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Okay, sounds good.
Everyone, thanks for listening. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.